models. The global workforce is also being affected by the proliferation of smartphones and by the fact that everyone is online all the time. Well, our next keynote speaker says that we are on the verge of a seismic shift in the nature of work. And it's all due, he says, to our mobile devices. He's here today to talk about the creation of the next billion knowledge workers. Please help me welcome the co-founder and the CEO of Box, Levie.
Thanks. Good luck to you. How's it going? How's everybody doing? Guten Tag? Good, very good. So I don't know if you can tell, I'm from America. Is that coming out pretty clearly? Not at all? Okay, this is my accent isn't strong enough. So I'm excited to be here today. I wanted to talk a little bit about what we see as the future of cloud and mobile and how it's going to change really every business in the world and how it's going to be changing computing and what every worker is going to be using computers for in the future. So this is my first time in Germany. So I wanted to do a little bit of research and kind of get a sense for how America and Germany were kind of working together recently, and there's actually a lot of exciting things and ways that we've actually worked together over the past few years. So I wanted to give you a sense of really what we've taken from Germany and some of the things that we've given back, just as a way to kind of level set the conversation. So I don't know if you know this, but well, we're really big fans of Beethoven out in America, so we appreciate that you guys gave us him, and we actually, in return, and we appreciate the Mercedes. We also, looks like actually this is missing a slide. Okay, well, anyway, we like those two things. There were some jokes. I had a David Hasselhoff joke that didn't appear in the presentation. Is he still relevant? Do we still watch his shows and everything out here? Of course? Okay, good. All right. Well, I'll send out a better version later. But so our vision at Box is to make it really easy for businesses to store, share, manage, and get to their information from anywhere. We have over 150,000 businesses that use the product, over 15 million users on the platform, and 92% of the Fortune 500 use Box to share and store and collaborate around data everywhere. We have companies like Procter & Gamble that use the platform to be able to collaborate with businesses and their product groups all throughout the world. We work with BAA to help them deliver great services in all of the airports that they manage and run. Volkswagen, obviously, we're very excited to be working with this customer and helping them deliver better products in their marketing and their sales information throughout the world. And we also work with a bunch of other global organizations, companies like Netflix, that obviously deliver media throughout the world, and they use Box to collaborate around content. Sony, very excited to be working with them as well to deliver content globally. So pretty exciting, a set of customers and set of traction that we're seeing in the enterprise. And we're at really the start of what we're seeing as the post-PC enterprise era. And this is really a transformation of how computing works inside of modern organizations. And it's changing everything about how we do business. If the original vision of the computer and the PC was to bring a computer and technology onto every desk and in every office, then the power and the vision of post-PC is to bring technology into everybody's hands. And while that's extremely interesting from a mobility perspective, it also changes a lot of the fundamental ways that we can use technology in our business lives and to accomplish all the tasks that we're looking to do. And this is going to really recreate the entire IT architecture of most organizations. So just to get started, there's going to be about 1.3 billion mobile workers by 2015. This is a stat that was just produced about a year ago. And this is an order of magnitude shift in all of the ways that we're going to be using computing and technology inside of businesses. And if you think about every single shift that computing has brought, starting back in the mainframe, then moving to the mini computer, and then to PCs, and then client server, each of these shifts there's oftentimes a 10x increase in the number of people that can use technology inside of the enterprise or inside of the workplace to accomplish their tasks. So every single one of these shifts, starting out with the mainframe, where hundreds of thousands of employees would be enabled with technology, all the way to client server and PC, where hundreds of millions of people were enabled by technology. Now we're seeing post-BC has the ability to impact over 1 billion workers globally. And what's so exciting about this is that it's not just changing people who were already using technology inside of the workplace. It's actually going to create an entire new segment of workers that are going to have technology powering their workplace and the business that they're doing. So why does this matter? Well, post-PC changes everything. It doubles the user base of information technology that's going to be in the world. So whereas previously, as an IT provider or as an IT vendor or as a company that was going to be selling PCs or delivering the internet, all you could serve were just the people that worked inside of a building. All you could serve were the people that were doing computing within the four walls of their organization. And today, technology and IT and information extends to all of the devices, all of the networks, all of the locations that we want to be able to work from. And that's beginning to enter entire new ways of doing work. And so it's a seismic shift for the entire landscape, because it's not just about the endpoints from which we're working. It's about all of the technology that underlies this shift that's going to power those new endpoints. So when you have new mobile devices that enter an enterprise, and you have all new kinds of platforms that enter organizations, this is creating new technology that is going to need to be the foundation of how those devices work. And it's more than just the numbers, and it's more than just the shift in terms of total number of people that can use these platforms. It's actually about how business is going to change because of this. So we're starting to see technology, and we're starting to see IT, and we're starting to see mobility enter the lives and enter experiences where there never was IT before, right? So if you think about in the healthcare space, you now have doctors that have instant access, on-demand access to different procedures and medical images and healthcare records. In education, you're going to be able to deliver content directly from an education supplier all the way down to the consumer instantly. So whereas 3 or 5 years ago, you might have a multi-year long process to create a new educational book, to deliver that to consumers or deliver that to students, instantly on demand, an educational provider is able to get their information, get their content directly to students, directly to consumers. It's shifting even things like construction. So in terms of how buildings are being created, we're having customers that have iPads that are loading up blueprints directly on construction sites. So there's all new ways that people are able to work with their information and access their content because of how pervasive these new technologies are. And this is a great quote from a GE worker from a number of years ago. He said that for 25 years, GE paid for his hands to build things, but they were never able to leverage his brain or his mind and all of the ideas that he had and all of the information that he was creating. And what post-PC does is it puts computing in the hands of all of these workers. It brings technology into all of the ways that we can be using information. And so the big question is, how do we make sure that every worker in the world is a knowledge worker? How do we make it possible to have this technology enter the lives of all of these individuals? And this is where enterprises need to change. This is where the industry needs to change. This is where IT is going to profoundly change going forward. So we see 3 major changes going on in the world that are going to drive the post-PC enterprise and are going to drive this sort of next billion workers that we're starting to see. The first is brand new platforms. So every single year, again, we see these shifts in technologies that are entering the enterprise. And if you look back over the past couple of years, there's been an inversion where most of our devices used to be Windows-based PCs, but just about last year and going forward, the vast majority of devices that we have in the enterprise are now post-PC devices. They're not coming from traditional enterprise suppliers. They're not coming from Microsoft. They're coming from all of these new types of PC manufacturers that are powering with new operating systems. They're coming from mobile device manufacturers, from Apple and Android. And this is beginning to have amazing effects on all of the technology that we're starting to see in the organizations around us. And when you start to look at the stats that are entering the enterprise of how mobility is affecting businesses, more than half of information workers are using 3 or more devices. There's over 44 billion mobile apps downloaded by 2016, and the number of enterprise apps are actually doubling every single year. So we're seeing all of these new use cases for using technology in the enterprise, and it's being driven fundamentally by new devices, bringing in new technologies into the workplace. And the vast majority of these apps and services that enterprises are using are not coming from the traditional vendors that we would expect. They're coming from brand new startups, they're coming from new companies all across the world, and they're driving this innovation in the enterprise. So we've moved from a model of having the Wintel monopoly, where technology is built for the desktop, services are hard or complex to use, they're generally IT-dictated decisions and technologies, to a world of iOS and Android and mobile and web-centric experiences. We have a mobile-first design set of principles. You're starting to see a revolution in how enterprise software gets designed from a user experience standpoint. So we've gone from really hard and complicated user experiences to incredibly simple, incredibly elegant experiences with our enterprise software. And fundamentally, the software is being driven by users. So we obviously know about consumerization of the enterprise, but what we're starting to now see is IT is implementing these consumer-like and consumer-grade technologies within organizations. And that's driving all the new platforms that we're seeing in the enterprise. The second big shift that's happening that's going to enable this next billion workers are brand new IT architectures. So we're no longer in a world where all of your data could be stored and locked down inside of an organization, where you could control your entire network and have all of the individual computers that were in your organization connect up to a single network. We've moved to a very different kind of model, and that breaks a lot of the traditional requirements or ideas that we had around enterprise IT. There was a great quote from one of the major IT vendors about a decade ago, which was that it was very hard and complicated to integrate all of your different systems together. And this makes sense. In the client-server world, it was extremely cost-prohibitive to have lots of vendors for your technology. You wanted 1 or 2 providers that could have all of your integrated services together. And so what you had were lots of vendors were pitching that you should buy all of your technology from a single provider. So the vendors would basically try and get you to buy all of their technology. Sorry, I got the wrong image. They would try and get you to buy all of their technology to run your business. But that's not how, that didn't drive the right level of innovation. That didn't drive the right level of velocity for businesses. And so now we're seeing a very different kind of environment where you have all of these new devices and all of these new applications that are emerging in your organization or in businesses globally, and the cloud really sits at the center of all of these devices. And the cloud is what is able to move information to the right people at the right time, and it's able to connect up all of these technologies together. And so we've moved from a world where you have on-premise systems for your CRM, and now you can use services like Salesforce.com, where you have on-premise systems for your human capital management, and now we have technologies like Workday, where you have on-premise systems for your business intelligence, and now you have easy-to-implement solutions for business intelligence with Good Data or Domo, where instead of having traditional systems for managing your email, you're now able to move those to the cloud. Or even the development environments that we're used to, that were on-premise and were very complicated technologies, we've now been able to move to the cloud as well. And for managing business content and business information, obviously what we do is we try and move that to the cloud. And so each one of these services, if you think about the new way of working, each one of these technology stacks can be implemented by an enterprise in just minutes, as compared to a previous generation of technology where this could take months or quarters or years, and possibly in a lot of cases not even be implemented successfully in the end. So we've moved to a world where the IT architecture is moving from vertically integrated, from closed technologies, from proprietary systems and on-premise technologies where you had vendor lock-in and you didn't get the level of innovation, you didn't get the level of competitiveness or choice that you needed to run your business effectively, to a world where we now have horizontally integrated technologies. These technologies are fundamentally more open. They're interoperable. They connect up to one another, right? We don't have the same kinds of challenges of making it so information can move from one system to another. The cloud fundamentally drives this level of openness because we all offer open APIs with our services. And so it means that enterprises can implement best-of-breed technologies in their business and integrate those services together. And the final thing that we're seeing is a brand new mindset around IT. And this mindset is what's enabling all of these technologies to be implemented in businesses throughout the world. It's fundamentally changing how businesses are going to be driving IT in the future. Nicholas Carr, who writes a lot about IT, said you only gain advantages, right, if you are doing something different than everybody else. If you have technology that they don't have, if you can put together solutions that they can't, and this is what drives differentiation, this is what drives competitiveness with technologies inside of organizations. But at the same time, right, we're seeing this massive influx of new technologies. So how does an enterprise take all of the IT that they have and make sure that they're differentiating on the parts that really matter? And if you think about the IT model of just 5 or 10 or 15 years ago, you spent a disproportionate amount of time managing on-premise systems and on-premise infrastructure to run IT. And in the future, this is changing dramatically, where you can, with these new architectures and these new platforms, you can put together technology on demand. And so then what begins to matter is really the I in IT. It's really about the information. And so we have to have a much more information-centric approach to IT going forward. And when you have IT no longer as a scarce resource, when you can now get to your technology and get to information from anywhere, it really changes how we need to think of IT as a differentiator. It's not just about how do you have faster access to better technology. It's about how do you use information in compelling ways, in unique ways in a business that no one else is doing. And this is what's going to fundamentally change the enterprise, because IT is now everywhere. It's now changing the mindsets of most enterprises. It means that we are going to be using technology in everything from the products that we deliver as companies all the way into how do we run our businesses and our internal IT environments. And so we've moved from a world of physically managing technology where IT was a cost center, where there wasn't a lot of differentiation, to a world where now IT is strategically managing information. It's about how do you get the best results from your data and from your business content and business information. It's about driving new productivity gains within organizations by giving customers the kind of technology that they need. And it's about differentiating your IT environment and your IT organization and your business based on the data and based on the information that you're producing. And so what that means is if you're a retail business, you differentiate based on how much data do the people in your retail shop have access to that can make customers have a better experience. If you're in healthcare, how can doctors have better information about either medical procedures or medical images or the records of the healthcare records that their clients need access to? So this is what is going to be changing how businesses run, and it's going to enable IT for a whole new set of customers globally. And of course, none of these changes come easily or come without risk. There's a lot of challenges in the enterprise today, but the rewards are massive, right? We're seeing all of these rewards every single day, where the cost of delivering IT is in some cases dropping by 50 or 70 or 80% in most organizations, because we're now able to deliver these solutions as a service and rented over the cloud. We're seeing massive productivity gains in businesses, and fundamentally, IT is now becoming pervasive in all the types of organizations and in all of the use cases that we normally didn't see technology previously. So in all of the different kinds of environments where mobile and new kinds of devices are bringing information technology into the enterprise. So there's this great quote from an innovator and inventor named Roy Amara, and it really is about this idea that we tend to sort of overestimate change of technologies in the near run, but underestimate it in the long run. And we're in this period right now with mobility and with post-PC devices where we don't really know what's going to ultimately happen with these technologies. We don't know all of the ways that they're going to change our organizations and change our lives. But what we do know is that it's going to bring technology to billions of other people in the world. And it's going to begin to change how we run our businesses. It's going to be able to change how we access information. It's going to change how we communicate. And it's going to change how we share. And this is fundamentally going to affect every single enterprise in the world. So the next billion workers are coming online right now. They're coming on in emerging markets. They're coming on as new demographics. They're coming into small and medium-sized businesses where they previously didn't have access to the world's best technology. And because of cloud and because of mobile solutions, they do now have access to best-of-breed tools. And they're not going to look or work like the first billion. They want to be able to communicate faster. They want to be able to share faster. They can't run into the same kinds of roadblocks that we're used to putting up in our organizations. They want to be able to access information from any location. They want to be able to work on site with customers in real time. And this is going to change all of the underlying IT systems that we have. So the near $1 trillion of market cap that goes towards the top sort of 10 or 15 enterprise vendors today is going to shift dramatically to all of the new kinds of post-PC companies that are emerging. And we're already seeing these changes happen today. So that's what the world's going to look like a little bit in the future. It's up to all of us to unlock this potential, whether you're in IT and can enable these technologies, whether you're a startup and can build these technologies, whether you're more of a legacy provider and can shift the resources and the innovation towards these kinds of technologies. This is really the opportunity that we're sitting at the center of for the next decade or more. So I'd like to thank you very much for your time and appreciate it. Take care.
Aaron, do you want to do some Q&A?
Oh, sure, great. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, we got time.
Particularly if they're Hasselhoff questions.
Yes, Hasselhoff questions.
That's primarily what I can answer.
Okay. You know, what you're talking about and what we heard yesterday, it implies a huge transfer of wealth that is happening now from the gatekeepers of the past, as you were saying, software makers, for example, to the masses now. Is that what you're seeing? I mean, is a huge redistribution going on right now?
Yeah. So if you look at, raise your hand if you have an iPad. Okay. Now, raise your hand keep your hand up if you happen to have like lots of legacy Microsoft software on your iPad. Well, everybody put their hand down anyway, so we couldn't really see. So, but does anybody have any Microsoft software on their iPad right now?
Very few.
Okay,
no.
a few people, right? Yeah. But you're probably using apps on your iPad, right? So where are those apps coming from? They're coming from new kinds of companies. They're coming from new startups. You might know of a company called CloudOn. They deliver Microsoft Office over the web. You might know a company called Annotate, PDF Annotate, or other kinds of annotation or note-taking services. Raise your hand if you're using Evernote. So if you think about this, all of these new kinds of technologies that are helping us be productive inside of the enterprise or inside of the workplace are not coming from Microsoft or Oracle or IBM or traditional vendors. They're coming from new startups that are building for a mobile-first and post-PC first kind of world, or a PC plus kind of world. And that means that unless the incumbents can rapidly change how they're building their technology or who they're building it for, they're not going to be able to stay relevant for the new ways that we're working.
And then are you predicting here an extinction of these blue chip companies of the IT world that have basically accompanied us since the 1980s?
Well, I can only do that when I'm on my home turf. So I won't predict any extinctions right now. But let's say it's going to be very difficult over the next decade or so, where you're going to see a pretty massive transition over the next decade or so to companies like the Googles of the world and the Salesforces of the world, where they are building for a post-PC first kind of era, and they are building technology that is fundamentally much easier to deploy. It tends to cost a lot less, and it's also creating much more opportunity for the ecosystem than ever before. So if you think about a world where, on the iPad, there's hundreds of thousands of apps that have been produced by the ecosystem. Well, that's a massive amount of innovation that is now available for any enterprise to be able to bring into their workplace. Whereas 5 or 10 years ago, it was extremely hard to deliver enterprise technology into an enterprise, right? You had to have massive sales forces and massive distribution, and there were no easy channels to bring technology into the workplace. And so this means that companies and startups that emerge today that are building for this next generation way of working and delivering technology are at a pretty fundamental advantage, or have a pretty fundamental advantage relative to those legacy providers.
So, you talk about the way we're working. Someone asked me to ask you what you think about the change at Yahoo, the CEO at Yahoo not wanting people to work from home anymore, since you're talking about the next billion workforce.
Yes. Yahoo is, does everybody know what Yahoo is? Not a lot of people visit it anymore, so that's the challenge that they're running into.
Right?
Yes. So Yahoo's at a really interesting point in their kind of life, right? They have had a lot of strategic challenges. They've had a lot of sort of challenges staying relevant. And what Marissa's had to do in running Yahoo is bring everybody together to sort of re-inject the kind of morale and culture that you get when you're at a startup or you get when you're at a company that has a lot of momentum. And Yahoo lost a lot of that momentum. So I don't think it's so much of a commentary on the future of work as much as it is on the commentary of how Yahoo has to rebuild their morale right now. I think, if they can do that and they can get the kind of energy flowing in their organization that I think a lot of other companies have, then you'll see them redistribute as an organization where...
So you don't think having so many people working at home and not being in the same place, you don't think that's a morale buster?
I think that it's a morale buster when you don't have the morale to begin with. And so when you have everybody who's working in a very distributed fashion, but you don't have the sort of central culture that organization needs, it's very hard to ignite it. Yep. And so that's what they're trying to do right now, is trying to figure out how do we rebuild the kind of culture that other organizations have, and then we can figure out a way to have people work remotely and use technology to work more effectively.
Okay, we got time for maybe 1 or 2 questions. Any questions from the audience? Anyone got anything to ask? Anything out there? I know we've got, it's hard to see everybody. We've got one here. Mr. Levin, there's a discussion going on about bring your own device to work. What do you think about that?
So first of all, I'm Mr. Levy, but that's fine.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
So is he addressing me or somebody else?
No, it's to you.
Okay,
It's just a typo.
Okay. So we're big believers in this idea that enterprises have to let people choose what kind of technology they want to be using. It makes employees far more productive when they can sort of have personal choice as to those technologies. And we're at a point right now, and if you just look at this conference, you'll see it pretty clearly, where there's so much innovation going on in the device landscape. No IT organization at this point can standardize on one kind of device, because as soon as you standardize on one kind of device, 6 months later, Samsung or Apple or Google or somebody else will come out with something better that is faster or cheaper or lighter or more effective. So even attempting to try and sort of sanction only one kind of technology no longer is a tenable strategy for any organization that wants to stay innovative and wants to have that kind of velocity. So the key is you want to be able to let people bring in their own device to work, but you need to be able to make sure that there is a security component of how information and how data gets managed on that device, and how do people use that device in a responsible and safe kind of way. And we're seeing a lot of innovation in this space right now. Some innovation, I think, is still maybe too much control, and it slows people down on these new devices. The last thing you want to do is get a brand new, incredibly powerful, iPad or Android device, and all of a sudden nothing works on it because you've implemented too strong of a security policy. But I think we're moving to a world where it's all about the data security, but the apps can be very flexible and very dynamic, and the devices can be very flexible and dynamic, but you need to make sure that the data itself is what is secured.
We've also got a couple more questions here. What's the impact then on geographic-based clusters? We innovate on the fringe. Will we be more dispersed?
Yeah, so I think technology allows us to be more dispersed. So we're an organization that's beginning to evolve and become more distributed. So we have a few dozen people now in the UK, and we're going to be having people in Germany, and we'll have people in Japan, and we have a bunch of people obviously in San Francisco. And so we need to be able to work as an organization in a uniform and aligned way, where innovation can be happening all throughout the parts of the organization and all the edges of the organization. But we want to be able to communicate ideas, and we want to be able to share information rapidly. So technology is what's going to sort of be the fabric that lets us all, get our job done that we need in a distributed fashion. And those ideas that everybody will have will come at the edges of the organization, where people are working directly with customers, or they're working directly in their market, and they want to flow back information and ideas to the people that can go execute.
The man who wants to be the next chancellor of Germany was on the stage several days ago, and he was saying that he would like to turn Germany into a Silicon Valley, to make a Silicon Valley possible here. You are, one of these products of what can come out of the United States that can affect the entire high-tech world. What do you think it is about Silicon Valley, about the United States, that still gives those impulses, that breeds those new ideas that other countries maybe don't have or should try to emulate?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is there could be faster Wi-Fi at my hotel. I think that might be slowing down innovation.
It's really a problem. Yes.
So that's the first step. But beyond that, I think that I think that there are a lot of strong startup hubs emerging in Europe right now. Berlin obviously is a strong startup community. I just met a really awesome startup yesterday that's based out of Hanover. We're seeing a lot of stuff happen in the UK. So I think it's happening. This idea of innovation can happen from anywhere. I mean, if you look at Sweden, a lot of innovation coming out of there, in Denmark and the Netherlands. So we're seeing some of this distribution of innovation definitely happening. We're very fortunate in Silicon Valley because to have a startup community and to have the kind of culture that Silicon Valley has, you really need a few different kinds of factors to happen. You need a capital market to exist, and so that's the venture capital ecosystem that is sort of funding this innovation. Yeah. And it has to be very sort of risk-oriented capital, right? It can't be risk-averse capital. It has to be capital that understands that 90% of the time and 90% of the investments are going to fail. That's an expectation. That's the sort of baseline expectation of the capital environment. But when something succeeds, it's going to succeed at orders of magnitude more than what you even thought was possible. You need to have, obviously, the development and kind of innovation talent. And the great thing is there are universities globally that are producing this kind of talent. And you need to see successes, and you need to be able to have mentors, and you need to be able to have that network of talent that can all come together around these things. And so, the number one thing, and this is sort of what everybody talks about, is really that sort of risk aversion and killing that off, and making sure that people are able to take risks and able to innovate. And the more that can be infused into startup cultures, whether it's regulatory issues or whether it's cultural issues, the more that can be attacked, the more you'll see innovation and the more you'll see a startup community thrive.
Great. Aaron,
cool.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cool. Take care.
All right.